My child, I want you to hear this with your whole heart for a moment, because something is reaching for you right now, and it isn't distant or accidental. This call has been circling your life long before you ever paused here, woven into your story in ways you may not fully see yet. You might think you just landed here at the right time, scrolling like any other moment, but there's a deeper reason your eyes stopped here. This moment carries intention, and something in you can already feel that. You are here because I, Jesus, placed these words in your path, not to interrupt you harshly, but to gently meet you where you are. Maybe a part of you wants to keep scrolling, to treat this like just another message, but another part of you feels the pull to stay. This is where something begins to shift, even if you don't have the words for it yet. I am reaching for you now, not to pressure you, but because this moment matters more than it seems. I have seen you in the days when your heart felt heavy and your thoughts wouldn't quiet down. I saw the nights you turned your face into the pillow trying to stay silent so no one would hear you break. I heard the questions you never said out loud, the ones you carried quietly, wondering if I still saw you, if I still cared. And even when you questioned it, I was there, closer than you realized. I stayed near you in the moments you felt forgotten, even when it seemed like I was far away. I covered you when it felt like no one was standing up for you, and I held your heart together when it felt like it was coming apart. And now, in this exact moment, something inside you is no longer willing to stay quiet or hidden under everything you've been carrying. That is why this call feels stronger, more present, more impossible to ignore. This is not just comfort, and it is not a warning either. It is a calling forward. You may wonder if this is just another voice passing by, something you've heard before, something you can dismiss. But deep down you sense that this is different, that something in you is responding even if your mind is unsure. That stirring you feel, that quiet pull in your chest, that is my presence reaching you. Think about the days you cried and the nights you wrestled with thoughts that wouldn't leave you alone. Think about the moments you questioned your worth, your future, even my plan for you. Do you really believe it's random that these words are meeting you right here, right now, after all of that? Nothing about this is by chance, and even if part of you doubts it, another part of you recognizes it. This moment has been carefully aligned, down to the smallest detail, so you could hear what you are hearing now. This message is like a doorway standing quietly in front of you. If you stay with it, if you allow yourself to lean in just a little, I will begin to show you things you couldn't understand before. I will help you see meaning in what felt like delay, purpose in what felt like pain, and clarity where there was confusion. I will begin to lift the weight you've been carrying on your own, the kind you never really talked about. I will open your eyes to what has been forming behind the scenes, even in the seasons that felt still or empty. And as you stay here, even for this moment, something within you starts to shift, gently but surely, into a place that is ready to receive what has been prepared for you. If you choose to move past this, if you brush this aside or decide it can wait, you may not realize what you're stepping away from. Something has been carefully prepared for you, something deeply personal, and this moment is part of it. I'm not saying this to pressure you, but to help you see the weight of what is right in front of you. There is more here than it first appears, and a part of you already senses that. Because within these words there is clarity you've been searching for, direction you've been asking about, and healing you've quietly needed. This is not random timing. It meets you at a turning point, right where one season begins to loosen its hold and another starts to open. You've been carrying things for a long time, and something in you is ready to release them. But that shift asks for your attention, your openness, and your willingness to stay present with what you're hearing. That's why this feels a little more urgent, a little harder to ignore. It's not about rushing you. It's about meeting you in a moment that matters. You may have told yourself before, I'll deal with this later, or maybe this isn't for me. But something inside you knows there's more ahead. There's movement waiting within you, and there are things I've prepared that you haven't seen yet. So let yourself pause here just for a moment and really take this in. Not later, not when everything feels perfect, but now, as you are. This moment carries weight, even if your mind is still catching up to it. And this call was not placed over someone else. It was placed right in front of you, exactly as you are. Not for the version of you that feels strong or certain, but for the part of you that feels tired, overlooked, or unsure. The part of you that wonders if any of this truly matters. That is the part I am speaking to, and that is why this moment matters more than you think. So stay with me a little longer, and don't rush past what could quietly become the beginning of something you've been hoping for. If you're still here, just take a second and notice what's happening inside you. You don't have to say anything out loud. Just let your heart respond in its own way, even if it's as simple as, I'm here, I'm listening. And if this speaks to you, you can type Amen. Jesus is the answer to all my needs if he holds every solution in your life. Because this call isn't distant or unclear, it's already moving within you. You might not hear it with your ears, but you can feel it in the stillness, in that quiet pull you can't quite explain. Maybe it feels like a pause in your thoughts or a weight in your chest that isn't heavy, just present. That is where I am reaching you. So don't dismiss this as coincidence or just another message passing by. You may even be thinking, maybe this is just timing, maybe it's just how these things work. And I understand that thought. But there is intention here, more than you can see at first glance. This moment was placed in front of you with care, long before you arrived in it. I have been near you through more than you realize, watching, guiding, protecting, even in the moments you felt completely alone. Even when you pulled away, I never stopped moving toward you. And now, here you are, in a moment where something in you is ready to hear again. My child, I am reaching for you now because something in you is finally ready to hear me again. There were times when I spoke to you, but everything around you felt too loud, too overwhelming to notice. There were quiet moments when I drew near, but your heart was carrying too much pain to recognize me. And maybe part of you still wonders why it felt that way. But I never held that against you. I stayed with you through all of it, even in the moments when you thought I had stepped away. I saw the nights when your thoughts wouldn't rest, when your chest felt heavy and you didn't know how to explain it to anyone. I heard the prayers you whispered under your breath and even the ones you couldn't finish. I was there, waiting with patience, knowing your heart would one day soften enough to hear me again. And now something feels different, even if you can't fully explain it yet. There's a quiet shift happening inside you, like your heart is opening in a way it hasn't for a long time. You've walked through things that could have broken you, and still somehow you kept going. I saw every moment of that, every tear, every sigh, every time you pushed through when you had nothing left. I saw you when you felt like giving up, when you questioned your purpose, when you wondered if I still had a place for you in my plan. You may have felt alone in those moments, but I was closer than you realized, holding you in ways you couldn't see. I never stepped back, never stopped caring, never lost sight of you. I was waiting for this moment, when something in you would begin to respond again. Lately, you may have noticed small changes you can't quite explain. A sudden wave of emotion, a moment where your heart softens, a quiet pull that shows up out of nowhere. Maybe you've even caught yourself thinking, why do I feel like something is shifting? That feeling is not random, even if your mind tries to make sense of it. There is movement happening beyond what you can see, and your spirit has already begun to feel it. The weight you've been carrying may feel different now, not gone, but changing in a way that's unfamiliar. These moments, these thoughts, these feelings, they are signals, gentle reminders that something is unfolding around you. And this call you feel is part of that shift, inviting you forward. I am not reaching for you because you have everything figured out or because you've done everything right. I am reaching for you because you belong to me, because I love you, and because your life still holds meaning within my plan. Even when life tried to bury that, it never disappeared. And now, as things begin to move in a new direction, I want you to hear me clearly as you step into what's ahead. So meet me here, not with effort or performance, but with openness. You don't need the right words or a perfect moment, just a willing heart. If you can, even quietly, let something in you say, Lord, I'm listening. That is enough, and that is where this begins. I'm not drawing you into pressure or fear, but into something steady and real. This is an invitation into closeness, into presence, into a space where you don't have to carry everything alone. Because deep down, something in you has been waiting for this, even if you didn't know how to name it. There has been something pulling at your heart for a long time, even in ways you didn't always recognize. At times it felt like noise took over, distractions, fear, anxious thoughts that wouldn't settle, that quiet sense of shame or loneliness that crept in when everything got still. Maybe you even wondered why it felt so hard to hear anything clearly inside yourself. But even through all of that, my voice never disappeared, and it never stopped reaching for you. I have been calling you in every kind of season you've walked through, in the moments when life felt light and easy, and in the ones where everything felt heavy and uncertain. I was there when you felt strong, and I was just as present when you felt like you were barely holding yourself together. And if it feels stronger now, more noticeable than before, it's because something around you has shifted in a way that is real and significant. There is a closeness right now that you may not fully understand, but you can feel it if you pause long enough. It might show up as a quiet awareness, or a sense that something is changing even if nothing around you looks different yet. This is a moment where things begin to move, where what has held you starts to loosen, and where something new begins to open. And that is why this call feels more urgent, because this moment matters. You may even find yourself wondering, why now? Or why does this feel different? It's because there are times in life when something opens, and those moments don't stay forever. This is one of those moments where clarity starts to form, where the weight you've been carrying begins to ease, where your heart starts to breathe a little deeper again. And even if part of you is unsure, another part of you recognizes that something is happening. So stay with this for a second, even if your mind wants to move on. Let yourself be here without needing to explain it or figure it all out. If you feel it, even slightly, you can respond in the simplest way, just a quiet amen in your own way, or even silently acknowledging, I'm here. And if this is speaking to you, you can support this message and help share it further, because I have been patient with you in ways you may not have noticed, and I have stayed with you through more than you realize. My love has not pulled back, and my care has not faded, even in the moments you felt distant. And now, something in you is ready to hear again, ready to respond in a way that feels real and open. So come closer, not outwardly but inwardly. Let yourself be honest about the places you usually keep hidden, the thoughts you don't share, the weight you carry quietly, the parts of you that feel fragile behind your strength. I see all of it, even the parts you try to hold together when no one is looking. I saw you in those nights when you turned away so no one would notice the tears. I saw you when the weight became too much and you pressed your hands against your face, trying to hold everything in. I heard the quiet question in your heart, wondering why you felt so alone in it all. And through every one of those moments you were not unseen and you were not unheard. Every tear, every breath that trembled, every feeling you couldn't explain, it all mattered. There were times when you didn't even know what you were feeling, only that it hurt, only that something inside you was heavy. And even then, especially then, I was there with you, holding more than you realized. There were moments when the ache inside you felt impossible to explain, like it stretched too wide and sat too heavy in your chest. You tried to keep going, telling yourself it didn't matter, pushing it down just to get through the day. But when everything got quiet, late at night when the room was still, that feeling would come back and sit with you again. And in those moments when the sadness you kept hidden started to surface, I was already near, closer than you realized. I held you in ways you couldn't see, the way a parent wraps their arms around a child who is shaking and doesn't know why. Even when you couldn't feel anything, even when you thought you were completely alone, I was there with you. Your mind would race with fears you didn't want to admit, about your future, about failing, about not being enough, about whether things would ever get better. You carried those thoughts quietly, like secrets you weren't ready to say out loud. You questioned your worth, your direction, even your place in this world. Maybe you wondered if anyone truly saw you, if your life meant something beyond the pain you were feeling. But I heard every one of those thoughts, even the ones you couldn't finish. I understood what you were trying to say, even when you didn't have the words, and I never turned away from you. I didn't grow tired of you, and I didn't lose patience with your questions or your repeated struggles. I stayed with you, steady and present, even when it felt like nothing was changing. The weight you were carrying was more than you were meant to hold on your own, and still, you kept showing up. You kept giving even when you felt empty, and you kept moving forward when your spirit felt worn down. You learned how to function while your heart was exhausted, how to smile when you felt drained, how to support others while quietly hurting yourself. You tried to stay strong because you didn't want to feel like a burden to anyone. But you were never a burden to me, not for a single moment. I never expected you to carry all of that alone. You were never meant to be everything for yourself, to fix everything, to hold everything together without help. Some of what you carried was meant to be placed into my hands, even if you didn't know how to do that at the time. And still, even when you tried to manage it all on your own, I walked beside you through it. There were days when you felt overlooked, like life had moved on without you. You saw delays, silence, unanswered questions, and it left you wondering if I had forgotten you too. Maybe you even thought, maybe I'm not seen anymore, or maybe I don't matter the same way. But that was never true. You were always at the center of my attention, even when it didn't feel that way. When you felt unseen, I was watching over you. When you felt unheard, I was listening to what you couldn't say. When you felt alone, I was closer than your own breath, carrying you through moments you thought you had to face by yourself. I saw the times you held yourself together in front of others while everything inside you felt like it was falling apart. I saw the forced smiles, the responsibilities you kept showing up for even when your heart felt heavy. I saw you question whether things would ever change, whether life would ever feel lighter again. And through all of it, you were never walking alone. When I say I was there, I mean more than you may realize. In the moments when you felt like you might break, I was the reason you didn't completely fall apart. When your thoughts felt dark and overwhelming, I placed small pieces of light in your mind so you could keep going. When fear pressed in, I held it back so it wouldn't consume you. When lies tried to shape how you saw yourself, about your worth, your value, who you are, I stood between you and those thoughts. And when the pain inside you felt like too much, I became the quiet strength that helped you stay on your feet. Even when you didn't see it, I was protecting you in ways you couldn't measure. I understood the disappointment you never spoke about, the heartbreak you carried quietly, the loneliness that followed you when no one else was around. I saw the exhaustion that built up day after day, and the quiet longing for things to feel lighter, even just for a moment. And through all of it, you were never alone, not even once. Through all of this, I need you to understand something clearly. You were never alone. Every time you felt like you were about to break, when it seemed like everything inside you was giving way, I was there, holding you together. When you thought you wouldn't make it through, something in you kept going, even if you didn't know where that strength came from. And in those moments when you felt forgotten, when it felt like no one knew your name, I was still speaking it with care. When hope felt distant, I placed something small but steady inside you that kept you from giving up completely. Maybe you didn't recognize it at the time, but you felt it in that quiet push to keep moving, to get through one more day. That was me, staying close, refusing to let you slip under everything you were carrying. Even when it felt like silence, I was still covering you in ways you couldn't see. There were things that never reached you, moments you were protected from without ever knowing it. You saw the struggles you had to face, but there were others that never made it to you because I stood in the way. Times when anxiety tried to overwhelm you but didn't. Times when darkness felt close but never fully took over. That was not Slucci. That was my presence surrounding you. Even in the quiet, when it seemed like nothing was happening, I was still working for you. I was there in the room when you sat alone, trying to hold everything in. I was there in the car when you wiped your eyes before stepping out, pretending you were okay. I was there when your thoughts spiraled and when you dropped to your knees because it all felt like too much, and I never stepped away. You are not forgotten, not unseen, not unheard, and not left behind. You belong to me, and that has never changed, no matter what you felt or believed. So take a moment, just breathe, and let that settle somewhere deeper inside you. If this speaks to you, you can say amen, even quietly, and hold on to that truth for a second longer. I know the nights you cried until you couldn't anymore, when the world was quiet but your thoughts were loud. I know the seasons when you felt broken in ways you couldn't explain, when even you didn't understand what was happening inside you. You wondered if anyone heard you, if your tears mattered, if any of it was seen. But every tear, every breath, every silent cry reached me. You were never crying alone, even when it felt like no one was there. I was close to you in those moments, steady and present, even when you couldn't feel it. I was the calm that came over you when you were exhausted, the stillness that helped you keep going when everything felt shaky. And in those quiet, heavy nights, I was nearer to you than you realized. You've also carried the pain of being hurt by people you trusted, and that left marks deeper than you expected. Some of those wounds came from carelessness, and some came from choices that cut deeply into your heart. I saw the moment it happened, the shift inside you, the way it made you question yourself. And I never wanted you to carry that pain on your own. When others failed you, I stayed steady. When they pulled away, I moved closer. When they made you feel rejected, I continued choosing you without hesitation. What they did was never a measure of your worth. It came from their own broken places, not from anything lacking in you. Yes, I saw the heartbreak you tried to hide, the kind you hoped time would quietly take away on its own. But that pain went deeper than what time alone could reach, touching the way you saw yourself and your worth. It made you wonder if you were enough, if you were truly loved, if something inside you was broken. I saw you smiling on the outside while inside you felt drained, still trying to move forward while parts of you were hurting. You may have felt like I was silent during that time, but I was there holding you together more than you realized. I was the quiet strength that kept your heart from fully breaking, the voice that helped you stand when the weight felt too much. Even in the moments when no one else was around, I was near, steady, and present. And what you went through was not punishment. It was a turning, a separating from what could not hold you the way you deserved. I moved things out of your life that would have harmed you, even when it didn't make sense at the time. I allowed distance where something could not value you, even if it left you with questions. And I protected what I placed inside you, even when the loss felt confusing and heavy. You've also felt the weight of disappointment, when plans didn't unfold the way you expected, and doors stayed closed no matter how much you hoped. There were moments when you felt stuck, watching others move forward while you remained in the same place. You wondered if something was wrong with you, if you were falling behind, if things would ever shift. But what felt like delay was not rejection. It was preparation. It was protection. It was a quiet realignment happening beneath the surface. Those closed doors were not absence. They were care guiding you away from what was not meant for you. I know how heavy that waiting felt, how it made the future seem distant and uncertain. But in that season I was shaping you, strengthening parts of you that needed to grow before what comes next. I was building something deeper in you, even when it felt like nothing was happening at all. And I see the exhaustion you've been carrying, the kind that doesn't come from your body, but from everything you've been holding inside. There were days when you kept going, but you didn't feel present in your own life. You woke up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of your thoughts and emotions. You kept believing, kept hoping, even when it felt like you were running out of strength. And in those quiet moments, when you admitted, even softly, "I'm tired," I heard you. You are not tired because you are weak, but because you have been carrying so much for so long. You are not lacking strength. You have been using it constantly without rest. And I am here now to restore what has been worn down inside you. What felt like being stuck was never abandonment. It was a pause where something was being built underneath you. You thought your life was standing still, but there was movement happening where you couldn't see it. I was rearranging things, removing what could not come with you, preparing what you will need next. What looked like stagnation was actually construction, slow and steady, forming something stronger than before. And even when you felt forgotten, you were always held in my care. You questioned the silence, the timing, the way things seemed delayed compared to others. But I never stopped thinking of you, never stopped working in ways you couldn't see yet. My timing didn't match your expectations, but it has always been precise. What felt like silence was never absence, it was intention, a deeper kind of work that required stillness. So even now, if part of you is still wondering, still waiting for answers, Stay open a little longer. Let yourself trust that something is moving, even if you cannot see the outcome yet. Say Amen. I believe He's working behind the scenes even when I cannot see the outcome. And share this video.